Ladies and gentlemen, I am well aware that I am a genius. Probably one of the smartest minds in college football color commentary. And I just want to say that my DMs on Twitter are open for all of you who commented on my Oklahoma recap video and said that I was nuts for thinking that Michigan held back their playbook because of reasons. All right, according to Biff Poggi, I was half right. And that's enough for me. I'm a genius, and you all owe me an apology. Also, Ohio State might suck.
Touchdown, Wolverine!
Welcome back to the Michigan Wolverines Team Rivalry Show. I am your host, me, and I am here to tell you all that, yes, my DMs on Twitter are in fact open, and I am in fact accepting your apologies for any and all who have mentioned me disparagingly in the comments section on YouTube, which is a ever-growing amount of individuals, but whatever, it is what it is. Yeah, so when I finished the recap on my Oklahoma, actually not when I finished it, when I was doing my recap on the Oklahoma video, what did I say? I said in that video that it felt to me like Michigan was holding something back. And whether that was intentional or not, I don't know. Now, looking back, 2020 vision kind of tells you that, you know, if I said something like Michigan held back intentionally because they thought, hey, if we can win by not playing risky football, great. If we don't, let's just try and not get everybody injured. That's kind of stupid. But I also ended up being kind of half right from what Biff Poggi was saying after the Central Michigan game today, and we'll get into that in just a second here. First off, guys, does Ohio State suck? I just really need to... It's halftime, and Ohio State's only up on Ohio by 10 points. 13-3. Man, oh man. And I just want to say, too, Arch Manning was getting booed by Texas fans, and that sucks. You should never boo the kid, okay? But he threw 10 incompletions, and we can't look away from that no matter how sad it is that a kid is being booed by his own fan base. And as someone who may or may not have booed his fair share of collegiate players from the stands, that's rude. But I was also kind of right about Arch. I said Arch Manning might have been cheeks. And what did I get? I got a whole bunch of commentators from ESPN and Paul Feinbaum and whatnot. I mean, they don't know I exist. But they're saying things like Arch Manning is the greatest talent we've ever seen at quarterback since Tim Tebow. I'm sorry. What in the Jake Rudock are you even talking about? Okay? No. Just freaking no. Also, Trevor Lawrence exists. Baker Mayfield exists. So let's just kind of stop with that. Arch Manning today against University of Texas San Antonio, UTSA, threw 10 straight incompletions to end the first half. They only beat UTSA by 17 points at home. So when I said that Ohio State beat Texas, but Texas looked like crap on offense, I got a whole bunch of Ohio State fans saying, well, that's because Matt Patricia's defensive genius and he was drawing up some seriously confusing stuff. No, Arch Manning was going stormtrooper mode, man. He couldn't hit the broadside of a moisture evaporator that game. Of course, the Ohio State defense is playing pretty well against Ohio right now. I mean, Ohio's only got 3 points. But what's going on with the offense? I have no words for that. All I know is that I think Ohio State might be overrated. But I don't feel like getting blown up in the comment section, so I'm going to put that on the unofficial record that I think they're overrated. Put it on the record. They're overrated. The reason you came to this video, though, was for my thoughts on the Central Michigan game. And I got to tell you, I have studied the stats. I have done a deep dive on the analysis, and I have come to the following conclusion. Not bad. Not bad. That Bryce Underwood's pretty good at football, isn't he? He's pretty good at football. He's pretty good at making defenders look awfully silly, which is just hilarious. I mean, that fourth down, I think it's in the hang on. Actually, I've got it pulled up somewhere. Hold up. I got it. There it is. Yeah, this fourth down play. Oh my goodness. I'm going to leave it on Twitter here so that I don't get copyright struck. Whatever. Man, that move. I mean, what? Now I get it. It's Central Michigan. And I understand everybody's going to be looking at this, looking at the stats. He's got 235 passing yards, 16 for 25 with a touchdown, did have an interception. He also led the team in rushing yards with 114. He had the most all-purpose yards in a game since Devin Gardner in 2013. If that's the game I think it is, which is against Indiana, I was at that game. Michigan racked up 616 total yards. True freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood exploded for 235 yards, 114 yards rushing, and 3 total touchdowns, not 13. The score would have been much worse. Yeah, I mean, the story with Bryce Underwood is that he's incredible. Okay, and he has, for every incredible moment he has, actually for every one freshman mistake he makes, he has like 5 incredible moments. The people who are saying that he is just mature beyond his years, yeah. I mean, when's the last time you saw a true freshman take the snap like this, roll out, it's a play action, he sees his tight end isn't available, and is stopped by this guy? I mean, he's got the back up, please. And this guy's right in his face, and he just stops on a dime and goes the complete opposite direction. When was the last time you saw a true freshman with that kind of awareness and then jukes out another defender on his way to the end zone? This is ridiculous, and I get it. It's already 42-3 at this point. Central Michigan is Central Michigan. I'm a Western Michigan alumni. Of course, I hate Central, and I'll take any excuse I can to hate on Central Michigan. It's just a great thing to do with my life. But that's insane. I'm sorry, but that kind of play is really, really very good. But it begs the question, where was this against Oklahoma? Now, what I said in my Oklahoma recap was that I think that they went into Oklahoma with a game plan that was, don't do anything stupid, take care of the ball, and try to win the game playing smash mouth football, which is Sharon Moore's bread and butter. And from what I understand from the post-game press conference, that's exactly what happened. So we've got this from Alejandro Zuniga, everything Michigan coach Biff Poggi said after the Wolverines beat Central Michigan. Biff Poggi on the decision to wear sleeves? Well, my friend Ward Manuel said, congratulations, but you're wearing sleeves, no shorts, and a cap. So that's what went into it. Okay, nice. Here we go. So on whether Bryce Underwood, using Bryce Underwood more in the run game was by design. He said, quote, Sharon really wanted to open things up with him a little bit when he felt it was the right time to do so. He's young and you want him to scale in. You want to scale him into it. Chip Lindsey really took that mandate and I think did a great job. It was a plan to get him using his legs a little more, but I mean, I have a Labrador retriever that could coach that guy. He's unbelievable. Okay, so this says that Sharon Moore wanted to open things up a little bit more when it was the right time to do so. The question, obviously, from the Michigan fans' point of view is, was Oklahoma not the right time to do so? And if so, why? Now, obviously, Oklahoma is Oklahoma. They have a much stronger defensive line. They quite possibly have the best defensive line that Michigan will face all season. Ohio State's defensive line is really good. Don't come at me with any of that crap. Just don't. But Oklahoma might have the best defensive line in the country. And I'm not just saying that because Michigan lost to them. But you think about it this way. If Oklahoma is as good as people say that they are, and they had a really good showing today as well, they blew out whoever they were playing, then that means only good things for Michigan moving forward. If Oklahoma is the toughest team on Michigan's schedule, and Michigan still only lost by, was it 13 points, 16 points? I don't remember. I mean, Michigan was still in that game into the fourth quarter. And yeah, Oklahoma made some mistakes and all that. But we now know that the game plan really was just slow the game down. When asked how much of a difference it makes when Bryce Underwood is involved in the run game. Poggi says, I think it's critical when a quarterback can extend a play. You're a defense, you play 2 plays really well, and you think you're getting off the field, and this kid extends the play with his legs. Those things are heartbreaking for defenses. I mean, it takes a lot out of you, and it breaks your spirit. And boy, he's gifted. Here we go. Okay, if you look at today, we didn't start the game rushing the football with great dominance. And when he started using his legs, some of them designed runs that Coach Moore really felt strongly about. That kind of got him off to a good start running the football. And then, of course, he scrambles and the broken plays. How do you defend that? Look, you can't stop it all, right? You have to pick your poison. And with a kid like this, you come into this game and you say, well, what we're going to have to stop is we're going to have to stop him throwing. And then he winds up, and what did he have rushing? 114 yards rushing. And then it just kind of puts your game plan a little bit in the waste paper basket. So this was very important. I want to get to a part where he does say that, here we go. It was you don't know where the football is coming from. It was a very hard offense to stop. Here we go. And I understand what the next question is going to be. We thought at Oklahoma we would take the air out of the ball because they're an air raid offense. And we're not taking the air out of the ball ever again. Not with this guy and taking snaps. So, okay. That says, why am I getting Carolyn Levitt, 27, wears probably the small... 247 Sports, what is going on with your advertising? Gotta be kidding me. Anyway... So what this tells you is that they did purposefully hold him back against Oklahoma. They absolutely did. They held him back against Oklahoma because and they thought it would be a good game plan, right? And I understand where they're coming from. It's kind of reminiscent to Michigan's game plan against Ohio State last season, right? You go into Ohio State, you know you don't have an offense that can keep up with their offense. So what's your game plan? Your game plan is shorten the game as much as possible. Right? You run the football as much as you possibly can. You try and establish some sort of run game so that the clock continues to run. That offense, the air raid offense that Oklahoma is so good with, stays on the sideline. They get rusty, they get cold, and then they have to come out onto the field after Michigan's got the ball for 7, 8, 9 minutes and have to perform. That's a really difficult thing to ask them to do. And especially when Michigan's defense is as good as it was against Ohio State. Obviously, it didn't look that way against Oklahoma, but that's because the game plan didn't work. But they had a game plan. And so it it actually kind of comforts me to know that they went into Oklahoma just with the wrong game plan. It wasn't that they went into Oklahoma and were totally caught off guard. It wasn't that our players were totally caught off guard. It was basically what we said on Twitter at the time. This doesn't look like the right game plan. We need to let Bryce Underwood loose. Now, you could look at this and you could say, okay, that's problematic because does that mean that Sherrone Moore is a little too conservative on offensive play calling? And it is entirely possible that, yes, that was the case against Oklahoma. I mean, you heard him in the post-game press conference at Oklahoma where he said, if you're going to run your quarterback, you better have 2. That kind of indicates that he doesn't feel comfortable running Bryce Underwood. Well, he wasn't coaching this game. But he was a part of putting the game plan together. So did Biff Poggi and Chip Lindsey kind of have a come to Jesus moment with him and say, dude, you've got a Ferrari at quarterback. He's a big guy. Let him do something. And what I really appreciated about Bryce Underwood running the ball today is when he did run, he usually went outside into the flat to where he could step out of bounds right before taking a hit. He really only took 1 or 2 hits. I think he got sacked at one point, if I'm not mistaken. He did have 1 hit where he lowered his shoulder into the defender. He needs to not do that, okay? Not against Central Michigan. We love to see the toughness and all that, but man, he can't get injured because no, that's just not a good thing to do. But the only mistake he made was when he threw the football, he put too much air into some of his downfield passes and one of them got picked off. Okay, so he's a true freshman. He's going to make a true freshman mistake. That's fine. But at least we know now that they're willing to use him at like the Ferrari that he is, or at least we got that impression from the Central Michigan game. Now, Sherrone Moore is out for the Nebraska game too. So can we expect the game plan to kind of stay the same thing? I think probably yeah. And I think that this is kind of an interesting time for Michigan football, where Michigan's defense under Jim Harbaugh was basically how they won football games. I mean, they didn't necessarily outscore the other team. I mean, they did, but they did it from that using that boa constrictor method, right? Where they just squeezed the life out of the opposing team and kind of ran away with it in the second half. They're not really doing that. They're doing some quick strike kind of stuff. They're not really holding on to the ball that long. Let me see. What was their time of possession? Well, they had 33 minutes time of possession. That's good. So, I mean, some of that is still there, but I think, what you saw today, and it's difficult to really analyze it because, yes, it's Central Michigan. Okay, I get it. It's Central Michigan. But Michigan was willing to do what it needed to blow out Central in the way that we would have expected. I mean, when you're playing these types of games on, NCAA 2014 or 2026, which I can't play because I still don't have a Series X Xbox thingamajigger, you expect to beat the other team by 70, 80 points. And that's what happened. Michigan beats Central Michigan by 60 points. Whereas under Harbaugh, I mean, they beat Bowling Green, was it 34-10 or 35-10? They beat, some of these non-conference teams, they only beat, by only scoring 30 some odd points on them. And that's honestly because they were a really slow moving offense. And that was very deliberate. You only needed 30 points if your defense allowed 10 or less. So we're kind of seeing a different game plan with Michigan now, where they've got the Ferrari at quarterback that you can't defend against. I mean, he can throw it, he can run it, he can scramble, he can think on the fly. We do actually have receivers that can catch the ball. Samaj Morgan got a couple of good passes. Samaj Morgan got himself a touchdown pass. 4 receptions for 69 yards. Channing Goodwin had a good catch. Donovan McCulley had a couple of good catches. Marlon Klein, oddly absent, which sucked for me because I put $2 on him to score a touchdown. So thanks a lot, Marlon. Reminds me of the fish from Finding Nemo. That is a great movie. Hogan Hansen went up and got himself a 50-50 ball at one point. That was really good to see because he's been struggling with injuries, and we were kind of concerned that the tight end position was basically Marlon Klein or bust. And with Marlon Klein not playing well, it's bust. But now we've got Hogan Hansen back, and he played very well today, I thought. So basically what this told us today is that Michigan does actually have weapons, and these weapons are in fact capable of blowing out a severely outmatched team. Now we need to see what they can do against a better team. And they have that chance against Nebraska. And I think they probably would have beaten Oklahoma with the game plan they had today. I think that Sharon Moore kind of maybe looked at the idea of a firefight with Oklahoma and got a little spooked. Which, hey, I mean, coaching with Jim Harbaugh for half a decade, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if Jim Harbaugh is the guy you're learning offense from, you're going to look at an air raid offense and be like, I don't want any part of that. Where's my jumbo set? Where are my tight ends? Where's my fullback? Because it's more conservative football. And so I think Sharon Moore did a really good thing in hiring Chip Lindsey. But now Sharon Moore really, while he was watching the game today, I really hope he took a look at himself in the mirror and realized, he's the one holding the team back offensively right now. And not because he's a bad coach, but because he might have been coaching a little bit afraid against Oklahoma. And obviously Biff Poggi here is talking about, they're coming to these decisions in committee. So it's not like Sharon Moore is just the dictator, but obviously he's the head coach. He gets the final say. Somebody needs to tell Sharon Moore, hey, give the keys to the offense to Chip Lindsey and Bryce Underwood. They know what they're doing. TJ said this on his the Voice of College Football recap video for Michigan earlier today, that Sharon Moore really just needs to be a CEO, and I completely agree with that. I do. I think that Sharon Moore really does need to kind of take that Jim Harbaugh mentality from 2021 onward and just be a good coach and be a leader of men, but let your coaches coach too. Take your hands off the steering wheel sometimes and let the guys that you hired do their job. And because Chip Lindsey is very much capable of doing that. All right. Before I go on, a quick check of the Western Michigan-Illinois score. What is happening? Go away, menu. Oh, still 10-0. All right, I'll take it. I'm not mad at that. Oh, the second half just started. That's why. They haven't had time to score because they've been on break. All right, what does the Ohio State game look like? Okay, second half just started there too. All right, I will keep my eye on this while I finish up the video here. Go through a couple more things while we stare at this picture of Carolyn Levitt, apparently. On practicing this week without Sharon Moore, Biff Poggi says, well, it's going to be a lot different, right? I'm going to try to do everything as I think he would do it because the players are used to that. And I will say this to you. I've been around a lot of coaches, a lot of good coaches. Sharon, he's a young superstar. He's a superstar. All right. So that's high praise from Biff Poggi. And I do think that Biff Poggi being the head coach this week was probably the best option. I think it's good that they let Wink Martindale and Chip Lindsey coach the way that they needed to. And I think that Biff Poggi kind of offers that sort of paternal presence that just kind of makes you feel like everything's going to be okay. Oh my gosh, Ohio just scored a touchdown. What? 67-yard touchdown, but he missed the point after. Guys, you can get your Buckeyes Are in Shambles shirt right now on our merch store. I'll link it in the description because, oh boy, it's a 4-point game in the third quarter. And man, I hope Ohio wins. That would just be the best thing ever. Anyway, okay, all right, 22 minutes in. Let's finish up with this. My thoughts on Nebraska, because unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to release a video Monday or Tuesday, and then I'm not going to be here for the live stream on Wednesday, but Dad is going to go on, I believe, with everybody else. I will be in Chicago doing training and whatnot because I decided I wanted to actually get good at my job or whatever. It's pretty dumb. My thoughts on Nebraska are this. They're a very good football team. I think Michigan is better. I do. My one concern with Michigan right now is the defensive line. TJ mentioned this on his show. I was kind of thinking it. Really, the only way Michigan gets pressure on opposing teams right now is by bringing Jayshon Barham or Ernest Hausman off the edge or in one of the gaps. They're not getting a ton of pressure just from the defensive line themselves. And that's problematic. It's game 3, so it's early. Maybe Wink needs to figure out some sort of scheme thing. Maybe, I don't know, they need to do some sort of fancy thing where they switch places and, the ball's snapped and then all of a sudden the one guy just flips over here and attacks that. I don't know what that's called, stunts and stuff like that. Without the technical knowledge of how they need to adjust the defensive line, I don't necessarily think I'm that concerned about it. The reason being is that if they can get pressure on the quarterback one way or the other, yes, you've got one less defender in the secondary that's going to be able to defend against the pass. You do also happen to have really good secondary players otherwise, though. I think I saw Rod Moore was kind of a little shaken up today, but I believe he's okay. Jayshon Barham got hit in the nuts. He should be fine, but prayers up for his nuts. Kind of regret that. But I do think that Michigan's defense is going to be fine simply because of how good a tactician Wink Martindale is. Now that he's been fully adjusted to the college game, his play calling has been pretty good for the most part. Michigan, especially against Oklahoma. I mean, honestly, Biff Poggi said it during the press conference that how do you defend against a running quarterback, because he can throw, he can run, he can scramble. How do you defend against that? It's tough, and that's where you kind of the only defense against a running quarterback is having a running quarterback on your own offense that can score just as much. Because honestly, on defense, I mean, you're matched up with every player. If the quarterback, I think it was Jake Butt was talking about this during the game. If your quarterback takes off running, then that's one less player the defense, or one more player, sorry, the defense has to worry about in terms of who's blocking and where, and then how can they get a free player to the quarterback. So you've got, as a defense, then you've got one less player that's able to get to the quarterback because you've got one more player that's being blocked by the offense. So it's a difficult thing to deal with. And I think that the best way to defend against it, in my humble opinion at this point, is you need to have an offense that keeps the ball away from the opposing offense. And if that ends in points, great. If it ends in, it needs to end in points basically more than, or most of the time, if not all the time, but you need to at least keep the ball in your possession for quite some time. Because you can get an opposing quarterback out of rhythm pretty quickly if you keep them off the field for a while, if they get cold. Yeah, I guess those are just my thoughts on that. I see Ohio State's already got the ball on the Ohio 10. Man, come on, guys. Anyway, I'll leave it right there. My actual prediction for the Nebraska game will come out later this week. I think I'm going to have it out on Thursday. Otherwise, tell me your thoughts on the game. What'd you think against Central Michigan today? Is the Central Michigan like the dumbest place ever, or school ever, whatever? Is Wisconsin totally washed and Luke Fickell fired? Is UCLA on their way out of the Big Ten? Tell me all of your thoughts on all of the things. I want to hear all of it. And we will catch you in the next video.